Hi everyone, welcome to our Mentoring Mondays for today. We have Chief Sean Grant. Sorry, I struggled there for a second. Here today to talk about staying safe on campus, and one of our students is going to introduce.
Hi everybody. Okay, we're going to introduce Chief Sean S. Grant, who was appointed Chief of Police of Central Connecticut State University in June 2023. Chief Grant has 27 years of experience in law enforcement with the Manchester Police Department, where he attained the rank of captain. Chief Grant was awarded several medals, perhaps the most noteworthy being the Medal of Valor for Hartford Distributors in Portland Street active shooter scenarios. As a patrol lieutenant, Chief Grant received the Janet Williams Humanitarian Award for his collaborative, self-initiated work with the Department of Children's and Families, for his work with young vulnerable females in group homes in Manchester. Chief Grant was promoted to the rank of captain in 2018, where he served as the patrol captain, support services, and administrative services captain. He was in charge of managing nearly $23 million budget for the town, conducting risk assessments through the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as creating operational plans for protest marches during the Black Lives Matter movement. During this time, as police captain, he also convened a committee of officers to explore race relations within the department, which led to the tentative adaptation of a new and updated police conduct deemed compliant with the Crown Act. Chief Grant is a graduate of the 276th class at the Federal Bureau of Investigation in 2019, and also a member of the International Association of Police. And he also holds a Bachelor's of Arts in Political Science and Sociology from the University of Connecticut. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So if you want, we can introduce ourselves really quickly so you know everybody sitting at the table.
Sure. I'm Cynthia Zuniga. Just a student assistant.
My name is Emilio Mejias. I'm also a student assistant.
I'm Melody Bauer, I'm the coordinator.
And I'm Mary Ann Mahoney. I'm a history professor and the director.
Leticia Castro, student assistant.
Hey Malari, one of the graduate assistants.
Nice to meet you all. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for coming.
Appreciate it.
So,
You must be very busy.
No, well, we'll talk a little bit about how things have gone, but
Okay.
I brought you guys a PowerPoint that'll kind of guide us through, or at least my presentation. So at first I wanted to, and it's just a down button, right? So first I want to talk about the mission of what we do, and that's to help, the majority of which is to make sure that this is a safe, healthy, stable, and inclusive work and learning environment. What that means to me, for the most part, is still in public safety, is allowing the students, staff, and faculty to alleviate concern or try to alleviate some of the concerns that they have about outside entities, safety within their own dorms, within their own buildings, and everywhere else, so that you can concentrate more on your academics and your learning and your growth as human beings, right, to start. We carry out the role of collaborative and professional manner and respects, and that's part of the reason that I'm here in collaboration, is to extend, I appreciate the extension to come to the meeting, but at the same time was to reach out to some of the clubs and some of the student government, which I've met with them, and whoever else here at the university, so I can collaborate, introduce the police department and what we do and how we can help you. And also to protect rights of individuals through commitment, service, and integrity. So what I'll probably cover today, for the most part, is the staff that I work with, the officers, dispatchers, student workers that we have. I'll go through some of the equipment and the resources that we utilize, some instruments of campus safety, and some of the things that we do to promote it, and then some of the things that we have done and will continue to do in furtherance of community engagement. So I'll start with police personnel. And so we have one chief, and that's me. As already presently stated, I was appointed here in July of 2023, July 1st. technically, I think the 30th of June, but because of the way it fell, it's July 1st. So I come to you from Manchester, Connecticut, where I served as a captain for a number of years. And this is my first stint as a chief of police. Presently, we have 2 lieutenants. I got the pleasure of promoting a lieutenant when I got here just last month. So I'm really excited about that. Formerly known as Sergeant Richard Homestead was promoted to the rank of Lieutenant Richard Homestead because we had a vacant lieutenant position when I got here. The past interim chief was the former lieutenant, Chris Cervone. So when he was named, the interim chief had left that open position at the lieutenant. And we split our lieutenants into 2 sections, operations and administrative services. So operation is more of the patrol side of things. So they're in charge of the patrol, day shift, evening shift, and midnight shift assignments. They also help out with other lateral, other assignments laterally involved in patrol, such as events, scheduling, things of that nature. And then there's administrative side that covers more of the admin side of what we do as far as training, dispatch, other things that don't relate specifically to operations. So we have 2 sides of the fence, and now we're able to merge those 2 and I have someone in charge of each of those sections, which is helpful from a supervision side. Because prior to that, the operations, well, there was a joint job, I guess you would say, was one, Lieutenant Oliveira was doing it all by himself. So we were able to lighten the load for him, which is good. So I think it works well. Sergeant-wise, we had 6, but because of the promotion, we now have 5. So generally what we do is we have 2 sergeants on each shift, and we have 3 shifts. So we have 2 on days, 2 on evenings, and 2 on midnights. So right now, because of the promotion of Sergeant Homestead to now Lieutenant, Sergeant Moon was on midnight shift. He was allowed to move to day shift, so he left midnight shift. So I only have 1 sergeant on midnights now. And I have an active hiring process and search. It could be a promotion too for sergeant. So hopefully we'll fill that vacant sergeant position soon. Officers, we have 3 on per shift. We are short 2 officers. So we're short 3 people in general, 1 sergeant and 2 officers. We hired 2 officers in October. We had 1 get out of the academy in December. 2 of them are on FTO still on field training. So they get trained up after they complete the academy, or if they get hired and they weren't from here already, they'll have a period of time where they get trained on the campus. So that happens for everybody who comes in who's brand new. And administrative assistants, I have 2. There's 1 office assistant and an administrative assistant. And they work, the administrative assistant to me works hand in hand with me on some of the policies. They also do records, and they also help out what we use as for our Clery Act, which is the Gene Clery Act, where we produce statistics, crime statistics. When we produce the Clery report or the annual security report in October of every year. Goes back and details the last 3 years of crime statistics and other administrative programs that are set up to reduce crime. So we put that out every October. So the administrative assistant helps that. And the other office assistant is in charge of parking, the motor pool, assists with the Clery Act. We are also an accredited agency. So my administrative assistant is the accreditation manager at this current juncture. And that kind of falls under the administrative lieutenant as well. So they'll help to do that. And we use CALIA for our accreditation. Basically, it's a system of standards that are set up to just make sure that we use the most professional means. We're up to date with our policies. It helps with liability. So if you have any standards of care or things that you typically do, the CALIA standards and our accreditation make sure that we're doing everything according to the standards. And the CALIA standards are the gold standard in a sense. So it's a very important thing, and we're very proud of that. So that's our staff as far as officers. The first 4 bullets are all sworn positions. The bottom one is civilian, and then we'll move on to our dispatchers. So the dispatchers are broken up into 3 shifts as well, days, evening, and midnights. And I have 2 dispatchers on each shift. So they rotate days off for the most part. Most of them will work, sometimes they'll work together, and all the days that they're not working, then one of the others will work so that we limit the overtime and the need to have somebody extra working. In an ultimate situation, the best case scenario, you have 2 dispatchers working, and they can provide phone support, radio support, and survey the video cameras that you see. It's actually a picture from the dispatch center itself now. So that we're monitoring all the cameras that are on campus. Is over 1,000 cameras that we monitor. A lot of them are in elevators for elevator rescues if we need them, or to monitor crimes that occur in elevators.
Here in the library, we appreciate it.
Yes, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. But we also have outside cameras, and we have cameras that are inside of common areas and buildings and dorms, but not in residential dorms, in dorm living areas. But we do have them in the lobbies and other places like that. And it's kind of our eyes in the sky to watch everywhere, so that we can't possibly be everywhere at every time, but we try as often as we can. So dispatch is a very vital cog in the wheel. And that's I mentioned in that 5th bullet point about our camera system. So the dispatchers for the most part bid per shift, as the officers do. The officers bid for 3-month cycles generally for the most part during the school year for each of the semesters and in the summertime. So they can find themselves on different shifts at sometimes, or they'll rotate or bid based on seniority. So sometimes it won't change. We have some senior people who want to work midnights. So if they want to work midnights, that's great, because the people who are new don't want to work midnights if they don't have to. So that works out. But generally, you're bidding by seniority. So most likely, the dispatchers, especially, if you don't want to be on midnights, you're going to be on midnights because you're on the lower end of the totem pole to start. And then as we develop more dispatchers and kind of move up that way. We just hired one dispatcher probably about a month after I got on, Dan Skolenka. He's on midnights, and he's with a 14-year veteran dispatcher who wants to be on midnights, so that worked out for everyone else who's on either eves or days. They were able to get their positions, so that's usually helpful for us. Student patrol. So we have student patrol. We have probably generally 6 to 8 workers who do student patrol, and they're in charge of doing building checks. They help out with some paperwork. If we get mail down in the lobby, you've been to the police department, so if we get the mail truck that comes in, they bring mail. A lot of times the student patrol and student workers will bring that mail and deliver them to the offices upstairs. We conduct escorts, whether it be through golf cart. We use our golf cart sometimes to do escorts, or we do walking escorts. Police officers at times will also do escorts in vehicles if necessary, if we get calls for it, and we have the availability to do it. A lot of times, sometimes we could be tied up in response to crimes and other things, so we're not able to do it, but we'll always pretty much be able to at least send out a student escort to help out. The blue phones, they check the blue phones to make sure they're functioning. Some of the blue phones have a video camera and CCTV capability, others do not. If you go to a blue phone and you need an emergency, you have the option of calling, and when you press on the blue phone, it'll automatically dial to the police department.
So if we find one that doesn't work, we call the police department.
Yes, and their job is to do checks on the phones every night. So for the most part, they're checking to make sure the blue phones work. So they should be working. If they're not, yes, by all means, call to the police department and let us know that one's not working. I don't know now, based on my presentation, if it's a good time, but I'll do it anyway since I'm covering the blue phones. Last week, we had an incident where a student was confronted with an assailant. No harm came to the student. They did a great job, phenomenal job, but they were forced to go to the Barnhart, I think it was the Barnhart blue phone, when it was close to where the bus gets off for Davidson, right in front of Davidson.
Oh, okay.
They were able to call us on the blue phone. We were contacted and we sent officers, and we were able to, the officers did a great job tracking down the assailant within minutes of it occurring. The dispatcher did a great job putting a description out. I want to thank the person who did call because they did a great job putting
particular time of day?
It was 8 o'clock. around 8 o'clock at night. And it was, let's see, Thursday, I feel like it was Thursday night. So they did a great job. The person who was being attacked, I say, wasn't a significant attack, but was victimized, was able to give a great description of the assailant. So we were able to put that out over the radio. We called New Britain to assist us, but we were able to find, I can't give you an exact time, but I want to say within 5 minutes for the most
Oh,
part.
wow, okay.
We were able to find the person, make the arrest, and send them to court. So the blue phone worked. I use this time to say that because we were talking about blue phones, but it worked perfection.
Mhm.
And so did our, the police response as a result of that. So it's very important. I'll talk a little bit about some of the other factors that we use for safety, but to have the blue phones and making sure they're working is very important.
Can I just say, you mentioned Lieutenant Homestead, and I just want to extend a thank you because he was at the basketball game and there was an event, like a medical emergency
Yeah,
at
I'm
Rec
gonna get to
Central,
that.
and he was able to perform CPR.
Thanks for
and
bringing that
he,
up.
saved my friend's life.
It was a friend of yours. Okay, great.
So, just
Good to know.
thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Thank you for being at the games, but also thank you for the quick response.
Yeah, I can't tell you how proud I am of the department. Again, I've been here for like 7 months only, and I've been extremely impressed by the professionalism and their response at all levels that I described earlier, from the administration, the assistants, the office assistant, to the dispatchers, to the officers, everybody. And as you accurately said, 2 weeks ago we had an incident where someone went into cardiac arrest at a intramural basketball game. Luckily, we had the basketball game happen because we staffed that with 3 officers. So typically on a Thursday, we generally would probably have a decent amount of officers. And when I say decent, remember on evening shift, we have 2 sergeants and 3 officers. So that's, 5 would be great. But on certain nights, I would say half the week, we're at a minimum of 2. One of them has to be a supervisor. One of them could be an officer, could be a supervisor as well. So you can imagine if we had 2 people only working that night and didn't happen to be in the area when that happened, we'd be in a different situation here. So I was very happy that they were close by, that they were able to respond. We train as emergency first responders, and to have someone who's able to do CPR and also use the AED, which was located there, and the fire. I don't want to omit the fire lieutenant, and I think he's in there in a minute. But the fire lieutenant has done an amazing job making sure that every building, or most buildings at the very least, have at least one AED in them, and on certain floors in different buildings. So that's an important part of what we do too, having that the capability of having the AEDs and that emergency response training. So thank you for mentioning that. So equipment and resources, and there we go, right? Talk a little bit about the AED, very timely. But first, before we get to that, we have bike patrols generally in better inclement, better climate, better weather. We generally will deploy our bike patrols, and that's usually in the early fall semester, and then obviously we'll be bringing them back out in the spring semester as the weather warms up. Our patrol cruisers, obviously our most important, one of the more important items of equipment that we use, make sure that we get where we need to get to, but at the same time, it carries all the necessary equipment that we need when we get there. And another, to tag the AED situation again, we carry the AEDs in our bags along with oxygen and other apparatus for medical support. But it's important to realize that sometimes we're not near our cruisers, right? So we'll respond sometimes from being on foot, whether it be bike patrol or foot patrol, or maybe we're already in the building. So it's important that we're able to get to our vehicles. So sometimes you'll see the vehicles are parked inside the quad or in areas where we need quick access to. So a lot of times some people say, well, why are the officers parking where they're parking? And they're blocking this, right? Yeah, they shouldn't be there. And a lot of times I'll agree with you, like we won't block, obviously entrances, exits, fire hydrants, things of that nature. But we will need to park sometimes closer to buildings while we're on patrol because of that. Because we don't carry medical equipment right to the calls. Sometimes, and all the time, they're really, if we're not going to a medical, it'll be stored in the back of the cruiser. So a lot of times we need to have our cruisers readily available to us. And because of the campus being the way it is, it limits us, right? We can't park in the student center a lot to go to the library or Barnard or go somewhere far. We need to have it at a moment's notice. And where I come from in Manchester, to have that ability is great because usually I'm going right to the scene and I'm not walking a far distance. In our cases, we end up having to walk a far distance. So spread that to your friends. If they see an officer parked in a funny position or a weird position, it's not because we want to just park wherever we want to park. It's because we probably have business close by and we want to have our apparatus ready and available. And that includes our Narcan. We carry Narcan in the bags. Narcan has to be stored. I can't remember the exact temperature, but it has to be at a room temperature or close to. So we typically will have it inside the building for the most part before we go out. We bring it with us in the bag, and we bring it back in at the end of the night, store it back, and then the new officer who brings a new bag brings it back out.
Can I ask, what would be the signal that a student or that somebody
Narcan?
needs Narcan?
It's hard to know for sure. It obviously is important to know if there's been prior drug use. If you're aware of the drug use at the time and you communicate that to the dispatcher, then the dispatcher will probably communicate that to the officer, and the officer will bring everything they have and know that the Narcan should be with them.
Let's say there's somebody in class.
Yep. So
or in a big event.
Sometimes the signs of an overdose, usually foaming at the mouth. If it's really bad, it could be foaming around the nostrils.
Okay.
And that means it's probably been taking effect for a while now.
Okay.
And it's important that we get something into them right away and immediately, because overdoses don't last for long periods of time. If you're suffering from a true overdose, you may have a couple of minutes before you might walk a couple steps. You may get to, the next room, but you're probably going to drop and flop and have trouble breathing, and you're going to go to a cardiac arrest and everything else, and it's going to be pretty quick. So we really need to respond and get to a person immediately. So we'll bring that Narcan with us. If we use a Narcan, if it's not an overdose, it is not going to do serious harm anyway. So that's the important thing to remember. If we do inject the Narcan, it's not going to, if it's not necessary, it won't. But if it is necessary, it'll take effect right away. And then our tasers on the other end of things, obviously, sometimes we do have to control the scene because someone's being assaulted or harmed in some way. So our tasers are what we consider less lethal. Our guns, obviously, are more lethal use of force, but our tasers are a little less lethal, generally designed for 5-second bursts. We can fire them successfully between probably me and 21 feet out as the ultimate target distance that you want, but at the same time, they fire 2 darts, essentially. One goes high, one goes lower, and fires at a different trajectory. So if I'm shooting at the television, the first dart's going to hit its target where I'm aiming it, and there's a red dot that comes out and shows you where you want to hit. It'll hit that, but the other one is going to go and travel at an angle below it, right? So what we want is full body contact. The higher, if I'm standing up and I can aim for a preferred target area and I hit that center mass, chest area or wherever, the other one's going to probably drop somewhere around my legs. But the further I am away, the more distant it's going to be. So if it's not accurate and not precise, the second dart may miss. If the second dart misses, it's going to be less effective because it needs 2 contact points and then it charges at those 2 points. So if one point hits and the other point doesn't hit, then there's not going to be a charge between those 2. But what it will give me is a full body lockup, essentially. So if the person gets hit, let's say in the calf or in the foot and their upper arm, everything in between there is going to lock up. So they're going to go down instantly for 5 seconds. Right? If it's tighter, because we're sitting here and we're struggling and we're fighting, and I get my taser out and I hit you with what we call a drive stun, which is a direct contact into the person, or it's really close, so the distance is not far, it's only going to lock up the area that it travels. So if I hit them, I don't want to. If I hit it in the chest, in the belly.
Please don't.
Yeah.
One of our most reserved and
Will I tickle them if I do it? Yeah. So from the chest to the stomach, that's the only area that's going to be affected. So sometimes someone who's I don't want to say just based on strength, but if you're used to it you might be able to fight through that and still continue to attack. So if someone was attacking you and I came up behind them and shot them really close, I might lock up the back. And because the muscles are so big, it probably will help a lot, but it wouldn't be as effective if I hit them from the leg to the back, because then everything in between would feel the effects and they would probably pass out right away. So that's the taser. And the Axon body cameras you've probably seen. I have one here. The officers will be seen wearing them. Mine's not on right now. But we're required to wear them anytime we're engaged with a call for service, in a sense. You know, something like a meeting or a meet and greet or something like that would not be considered that. But anytime we're generally responding to a call for service where someone's in need of help, an interview, a witness statement, any of those things, we're usually going. And the cruiser cameras will activate once the lights go on. Sometimes they will activate, and I'm not sure, you can set it this way. It will activate when the speed of the cruiser is going at a certain speed. In case you forget to activate it, it'll automatically activate. The body cam sometimes will activate on the taser being taken out of the holster. And if some people have it, not everyone, the gun coming out of the holster too will activate the Axon body cam.
How many officers, or is it everyone on the force has a gun?
Everyone that's a sworn officer has a gun.
And they just are always carrying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a requirement while they're working
Yeah.
to carry the gun at all times. The taser you may not see, like I don't have my taser on me right now. You don't always have to have your taser because I'm not a considered manpower at this point. I still will respond to emergencies and such, but the officers who are on duty will have their body cams, their tasers, their guns with them at all times, and their identification and badges.
So what happens if you get somebody who happens to have a health condition?
Yes. So that happens. Obviously, we have to medical service to them immediately, and we have protocol at any time a taser is a taser, right? Taser is deployed. If a taser is deployed, breaks skin, we take them to the hospital to have it removed and to have them receive medical treatment.
I'm just asking because I'm like, I have a pacer.
Yes, yes.
So that's,
Yep.
I don't know how that might affect a person.
Yeah, it's hard to know. We won't know, but what we do is if we know the person does, then we're told to not use it. If you're around a body of water, and if I hit you with the taser, I assume it will cause you to fall.
Yeah.
So you're taught not to do it around a body of water. You're taught not to do it on uneven ground. So, and I've actually seen this, not here, but in Manchester, we tased someone, didn't know on the other side of where they were, the ground, it was a backyard, and it literally dropped to another section of so it wasn't deep, but the person did fall and the officer obviously didn't know that it was that way when he came on the scene, but there's a lot of things, just like our handguns, we have to consider what's behind, right? Because the bullet will travel through a person if you had to shoot them, and we have to know that there's a safe area behind and not an innocent bystander. So all those factors that we use for the gun, we also have to use for the taser. But the taser less to the same degree because it's not fatal if it hits you. But it will stick to you. It's got probes on the end of it that stick to you that go through and into a jacket, let's say, or it would also stick into your skin. So that's the reason that if we do shoot someone and it does pierce the skin, we take them to the hospital. If it's just into a sweater or a shirt and it's not sticking in all the way, then we'll just take it out ourselves. Like a fish hook, essentially. Anyone who's been fishing before, it's basically a fish hook.
Oh, joy.
Yeah, right.
You don't want to step on.
No, definitely not. These things are sharp. So equipment and resources. We have what we call mutual aid agreement with New Britain Police Department because we are centered in New Britain. So New Britain Police Department will respond to assist us if we had an emergency and vice versa. We've responded to New Britain addresses in the city for various reasons, medicals, sometimes off-campus parties, where we know we might have students who are from the school that'll be there. Sometimes they'll ask us to respond to other incidents where they have limited staffing. So we go and we help out. The important part to realize there is that, sometimes campus police get this moniker, you're just campus police. We're literally sworn police officers that go through the same training as New Britain Police Department, Manchester Police Department, where I come from, Hartford, et cetera. We all go to the same police academy and we all held to the same standards. We may have less calls for service and maybe less severe calls for service, but at any point, sometimes we'll get things that are significantly severe and will require mutual aid. So New Britain is our first call of mutual aid, along with Newington. And a lot of times it may depend on where on campus we are at the time. Maybe Newington might be closer, depending on where, you know, the incident is happening. But Newington will also help us out. Our specific mutual agreement, though, is with New Britain since we're in the town. We'll call New Britain SWAT for what we call the blue plan. The blue plan is any critical incident that occurs that requires more staffing or resources than you have, then you may need to activate the blue plan. So when I say that, I mean, by me calling or notifying New Britain Police, I don't believe that New Britain Police can send enough officers to help alleviate the situation that I have. If I had an active shooter on campus that was a prolonged period of time, then I would call, well, not even prolonged, I'd call a blue plan. And what that is dispatchers will contact the blue plan is a series of protocols that go through when you activate the blue plan. And every agency who's in our vicinity knows that they send out a certain number of resources. So New Britain could send 4 officers and a supervisor. Newington could send 2 officers and a supervisor. Let's see what else is around. Bristol could send 4 officers and a supervisor. What's a small town around here? Berlin could send 1. You know, whatever it is, based on the size of the department is what they send. If New Britain can afford to send 4, they'll send 4. If they can only send 2, they'll send 2. And because we use New Britain SWAT, they're probably going to send less because they're also sending units to help us with the SWAT team.
How far is the, I guess,
Does it span out?
Does it span out to like Hartford, or does it like stay within like a 5-mile radius, or?
Yeah, so the towns that serve us already know who they are. So when we activate the blue plan, we know who to call.
Oh.
So our dispatchers will call them. There's probably about, I'd say usually probably about 8 towns. And it spans out, I believe Hartford may be in that group, but I could follow up and tell you exactly who.
Hartford, like close enough, but
Yeah.
also far, that
Right.
like,
Yes.
it's a big city. So.
Right. Yeah, so there's a definite group and they know who they are, and we know if we needed to send anybody who we would send. We're not on anyone's active blue plan, but we obviously would respond and help out probably to New Britain and Newington because of their proximity.
Yeah.
And if we could spare, you know, the officers. New Britain Fire, you'll see them, they responded to the emergency that we had at the rec center, and any emergency that we have on campus. They'll respond to fire alarms that we get in the dorms, and they work with us on a daily basis. They respond for medical assistance as well. We don't have the same level of care as they do. They are paramedics. We're only EMRs or first responders. The hospital, most of the times we send people to the hospital for medical or psychiatric help. So we work a lot with the Hospital of Central Connecticut. Campus resources that I put on there too, Title IX office, the Office of Equity and Inclusion. Anytime we get a report of misconduct or sexual misconduct, that's going to get a referral to the Office of Equity and Inclusion through the Title IX office. Student wellness, if we have someone who's not feeling well, who is self-injurious or injurious to someone else, a lot of times we will refer them to the student wellness. We'll call student wellness and get a counselor out to assist them. And sometimes we'll send them directly to the hospital and do a follow-up with the student wellness. Usually that would be through referral. Student rights and responsibilities, anytime there's any issue with a violation, campus violation, we work hand in hand with them. We'll furnish them with any reports or anything necessary to kind of give them a summation of a violation. If it's criminal and we're acting as the arresting agency, then that's something we don't give out. But if it's a code of conduct violation that's not criminal or being sought through a criminal arrest, that's information that we will provide for student rights and responsibilities, alcohol violations, drug violations, weapons violations, things like that that don't go to the level of an arrest. And those that also do go to the level of arrest can also be pursued through student rights and responsibilities. So they're kind of the hub of all those things. And we respond to New Britain Superior Court. So anytime we send in a warrant for an arrest, a search warrant, an arrest warrant, all those things are reviewed by New Britain's Superior Court. So when it comes to the safety, campus safety, emergency notification system.
Yeah, can we go over this, because I'm not sure that the students really understand those alerted things that come popping up.
Yep.
And the various different
Yeah, so I have a longer sheet that explains even more, but I think for the most part, what I tell you here should kind of give you a good feel for
So,
things.
you know, everybody, when you log into your computer here or anywhere else on campus, it's gonna say, like, we found you, or we can't find, some people think it's spam,
Oh, okay.
or actually phishing.
The Everbridge.
But it's,
system
yeah,
that
the
goes out.
Everbridge.
Okay. Yeah, so when you sign up as either staff, faculty, student, and you sign up, you were asked to give your information, right? Your cell phone, emergency contacts, things of that nature. So some of those things are what we're going to talk about here on the alert system, as well as if the computer that you're using here will have a banner that flows at the bottom of it. So anytime we want to send out an emergency alert notification, you'll get that. You'll get it on your phones that are in offices that are any product of Central, for the most part, will be affected by the Alertus system and by the Everbridge systems, the Wayland system as well. So the Alertus system is activated by dispatch, and it's a series of preset alerts. Some of them are campus in lockdown, please find shelter. Some of it will be an all clear, the emergency is over, to let you know. Some of it will be, this is a test, and this is only a test, to let you know that it's just a test. So the alerter system will affect the beacons, and that's all campus desktops. That'll be cable TV that goes through the campus. That'll be interior signs. So sometimes you're walking through the halls and you see the signs that are on the screens. It'll affect those. The LiveSafe app, which you're asked to download, if you don't have one, I know you do. I would advise that you do, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But the LiveSafe app also sends out alerts and tones, and you can receive emergency notifications through that. Everbridge will affect your phone, text message, and email. So that's why it's important to sign up for those things when we'll already have your email address because you're signed up through a CCSU account. We'll get your phone and your text message through the emergency contact that you use.
That does send to emergency contact, so like if I put, let's say my mom, would she get text?
She would.
Okay.
So that's a good point. If you put in, typically most young folks will say, my emergency contact is my mom or my dad or my guardian, my cousin, my aunt, grandmother, whatever. If you put them down as your emergency contact, and that's the only thing you put down, that's the only person who's going to get an alert. So if you would like an alert, which is important because you have a cell phone, you want to make sure you put your own phone number down, and you can also put your grandmother, aunt, sister, mother, father, whatever, as a secondary contact number. So they will also get it, but if you are in your dorm or you are on campus and an emergency happens, you will now have to wait for your parent, cousin, mother, whatever, to call you to let you know, and they would have to understand what it is they're receiving, first off, right? So the most important thing is you put your information down when you fill it out. And you can always change your information if your cell phone changes. You meet someone new and you want, that person is your significant other and you want them to be notified. Anything life changes, you can always go in and add people to that. And that's on the campus website. Also, the Wayland system is a system of audible alarms that warn you. So that's something that you'll hear throughout on the loudspeakers. And that will be maybe a little more descriptive. Active shooter alert, weather alert, power outage, things of that nature you'll hear.
I got one in the airport in Miami a week ago.
Okay.
Saturday, Sunday.
For what was it?
For a tornado.
Tornado, okay, yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Stay away from the window. We're like,
Here,
No.
very difficult. But you'll get that will be an audible alert.
Shelter inside.
Yes, so you heard it, that's kind of what you'll hear
Oh,
on
yeah.
campus. So we're always looking to test that. We test that system, or all these systems, at least once a semester. We did it last semester at James Hall, right?
Excuse me.
And also Barnard, we use as a test sites. We'll do it again this semester. We'll test those sites, and hopefully you'll hear it. You'll get a text, you'll get a message. There were some complications on the last time, but that's why we tested it, so we make sure that it works and we send it out properly. The campus phone system will send out an alert, and then you'll get a call or you'll get a message on your phones if there's an emergency as well. So we cover every system that you could possibly hear anything from. All three can be activated from the dispatcher. There are buttons on the sides of the wall where the dispatcher will have kind of like an emergency alert. So no matter what happens, if something happens where there's an active shooter or something happens in dispatch, all they have to do is hit the button. It's almost like, you know, the Staples buttons that they have. Right?
Yeah.
You get work done that way. There's a button on the wall, they can hit it. There's one for an emergency, one for a test, and one for when the test is over. I forget what we call it, though.
I know there's a couple of students on campus that are either blind or deaf, like for the students that are deaf, what are like the protocols?
That's a great question. And I'm sure there is one, I just don't know it offhand. I can get back to you and fill you in on how that
I
happens.
appreciate that just because.
If they're, so the audible, they would not hear, they would see, so one way to help that, what I would imagine every mechanism they have for normal, they normally would get a text that would come through in Braille or something like that. There's also, if it's just deaf, then audibly or visually, there's alert beacons on the dorms and also the academic buildings. There's yellow boxes that you'll see all over the place. That's another way of at least you can see as opposed to hearing. But sight, I believe there is a Braille, there's something that is there. I'll find out and get back to you and let you know exactly how that's done. But I know obviously it makes sense that they would do something for that. But anyway, I'm sure they normally would get alerts or anything else that probably comes through that way. And I believe in some of the things, like you would have an elevator that has those things as some kind of right. I just don't know it offhand, but that's a good question. So I have the next time. So we have the blue phones. We talked a little bit about those, and they're located throughout campus. Generally, we try to make sure that it's an eye shot everywhere you go, so you can see it somewhere, wherever you are. You can see a blue phone. And they're also in the buildings and also in the elevators. We don't call those blue phones, but they're elevator phones in a sense. The camera system, like I said, there's over 1,000. I believe there's over 1,100, but I just say 1,000 because it's a safe number. Located on campus and in the parking lots and parking garages. Most crimes we use the camera system for to go back and investigate. So that's why it's very important to report things in a timely manner so that we can respond to emergencies right away and then investigate them through use of the cameras. Very important tool to use. LiveSafe app is a free app available in the App Store. It provides virtual safe escorts, so you can send real-time locations to your family and friends to make sure that if they want to walk you back to your dorm, to an academic building, they don't have to have the app to follow you. The app will send a link to their phones and let them know that you're, I don't know, yeah, there you go. That's a good one. That's what the app will look like. It'll send a link that will tell what the expected time of your arrival is, where you're leaving from, where you are at the time, and it'll constantly update as you're walking in real time. You can do that too with dispatch as well, but you have to request it through the LiveSafe app, and we'll follow you too.
In a situation where we may feel uncomfortable, but it's not like life-threatening, how do we know, or like, how do we determine whether to contact the police, or I think it's student affairs?
It's up to you. So are you talking about for a walk or just in general?
In general, I'm talking more about the center.
In the center? Yeah, generally we usually say, obviously call us anytime you think you feel unsafe. The police department is your first call. Two options, 911, and that'll go directly to New Britain, and New Britain will call us if it's on campus, obviously. Or you call direct line. If you call direct line, then it tells me, and there's a number for it, but if you call us on the routine line, it tells me that you think there may be something peculiar or unsafe, but it's not an emergency. Like I'm not in imminent harm or imminent danger. If you're ever in imminent harm or imminent danger, then I would advise you to call 911. If you think, hey, I'm just not sure, someone who's not normally here is here and I'm feeling unsafe, then I advise you to call the routine line if you can. If you can't, the LiveSafe app will, you can text or send something so you look a little less discreet, right? So if you pick up the phone, you call the police, kind of looks a certain way, you may not want to alert them to that. You can message campus police by going to the app and hitting the message and then texting us. That sends an alert to the dispatcher to know that something's happening right now. So we get it real time and we'll send a response without anybody knowing. So it's a discreet way of getting that point across. So that's how I would advise. As far as student affairs, sure you can call them, but as a campus safety authority, I always tell you call the police.
What would they do that's different from
Student affairs?
Yeah.
Would you plan on interviewing them or having them come to one of your safety meetings? That'd probably be a good question. They will always help you out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Next week.
I mean, one of the issues is I think we don't wanna overreact.
Yeah, sure.
And
Right.
give the absolute message
Yeah.
that I don't wanna send
Yeah,
here is that minority students are gonna get this police called on them,
okay.
right, for just kind of showing up.
So that, I would assume then in that case, they're probably saying student affairs would evaluate the situation and decide, hey, and give you advice.
On the other hand, I want everybody to feel
Yes.
safe,
Yes.
right?
So from me, leave here understanding my encouragement to you is one of two things. For the most part, for me, 911 or routine line, or I should say three. Live Safe app,
Yeah.
routine line or 911, based on your emergency. But I also understand student affairs being an avenue also for that as well. What I would encourage and what I do encourage from my office is to take into account the reason for the call, the situation, speaking to you first before they speak to anyone else and getting a good feel for what the situation is, because maybe the officer comes and talks to you and never has to go to the person. It all is going to depend on what you say to them on the phone and how the dispatcher dispatches the call. You know, if you say it in such a way that the dispatcher understands it, you just want the officer, you have some questions, you want to see them. They're going to ask you a bunch of questions and you're going to tell them it's not an emergency and just answer the questions that they ask you. But tell them that I'd like to speak to the officer first. And that probably would alleviate some of those issues because maybe the officer gives you enough advice that he or she never has to go and talk to the individual. So the individual never thinks that they're even called upon, right? So that could be one way to alleviate that too. That makes
So
sense.
how would you evaluate whether or not someone was on the verge of stalking a
Okay.
student?
Okay,
Okay, I mean, I think
yeah.
that's a little bit what we're talking about.
Stalking a student requires someone stalking a student or staff or faculty. Anything,
whatever.
Right. For the most part, is a repeated behavior of an unwanted nature. So the first time something happens, you get to tell the person that whatever they're saying or doing is unwanted and not desired. And the person.
So would you mind not sitting behind me?
Sure, right. So if that continued, now if we talk, the 2 weeks, 3 weeks go by and the person sits behind them again. And again, a lot of that depends on what we're talking about. If we're talking a student at a table like this,
Can we show you a space?
sure. You want to do
Like
that now? Or
behind
you
you?
want to
Yeah, no, all you have to do is turn around.
Oh, okay.
See the reception desk?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a chair and a couch to the left.
Okay, gotcha.
And last semester, we had a young man coming in, very
I might
quiet,
be familiar with the situation.
okay, I think I've mentioned it
Yeah.
before, very quiet. And a young woman at the reception desk, and it was making her anxious that he was
Doesn't feel
behind,
comfortable, right?
that he was, you know, when we spoke to him, he always talked back, right? I mean,
In a bad way?
no,
Oh, okay.
no, perfectly
Okay.
reasonable. But he did still kind of sit back, sometimes he fell asleep,
Mhm.
sometimes. So one thing, and maybe you can give us some advice about this,
Mhm.
we were thinking about trying to do, is rearrange the
Yeah, I was
furniture
gonna
over
say,
there a little
environmental
bit.
design is the stuff.
Right, but the issue is that, you know, we want a reception desk right where people
Because you're gonna have
come
people
in
sitting
the
and waiting.
door.
Yeah.
No, that they come to be
Well, how about the
greeted.
couch?
Well, where are we gonna put it?
Take it out?
Yeah.
Do you need it?
I mean, the students like to sit.
Yeah, so,
Can it go?
Yeah, I don't want to make it, I don't want to, if you've got people using it and you find it valuable, then
so
we'll
for
work
a long
around it.
time, the center board insisted that there be sort of a lounging sort of
Okay.
space,
Yeah.
okay?
For
and
this area specifically, or just in
anywhere,
general?
just in
Okay.
general.
Okay.
So, you know, one thing, so anyway, I mean, we can have it taken out,
Mhm.
right? On the other hand, we don't want this to look completely like a business space,
Mhm.
right? It should be also more relaxed.
Right.
Hey, and, you know, I mean, where we've got the space that, and, you know, there's wiring in the floor, and there's
Mhm.
wiring in the floor, and the ceilings over there, so
Right.
like to move the computers, to move this table
Yeah.
is like, an issue.
Right, gotcha. So it's the only lounging area is in that location.
Sort of, I mean, we've created, it was supposed to be a reading room, but now it's a break room over there with a little table and a chair in it, but there really isn't room for the couch, and I don't want people like showing up and, you know, stretching out and going to sleep.
Right. Well, I will tell you, similar to like, you know, sometimes park benches, although they're great aesthetically, they look good and you want to invite that, sometimes obviously they're an issue for
Right.
people.
Yeah.
In, you know, Central Park, I come from New York, so I'm used to it. Like, it
Right.
invites people to stay for longer periods of time than you desire them to. And you're a public building,
Or
and
that
you're
you're
open extended
comfortable
hours, and you're comfortable.
walking by.
Right, right.
Right.
So if you didn't have to have it, to me, I'd take it out. Just me. If you didn't have to have it, I think if it's just for one individual, then I would hope we could just alleviate the problem with the individual, but it could potentially
Has the
still lead
person been
to
back
more.
this semester?
Not when I've been here.
And
It
the
could
person
lead to
is
other
in good
problems, too.
academic standing,
Yeah.
has great,
Is a
to
student,
me, as a student, to me, responds appropriately, when
Mhm.
spoken to, so,
well, I thought it was something that I was thinking about, but now I'm not so certain it's the
no, I
same
don't
thing.
think so.
So, and you have not,
We've never called the police about it.
okay. Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know if the person is just not understanding what you're saying, if they're refusing.
Nobody's
to-
spoken to him
at all?
about, please don't do it.
Okay,
The receptionist and Katie said to me, we're really not comfortable with this.
right,
I spoke to the young man
Mhm.
and he responded about, hi, how are you?
but you
What's your
didn't say
name?
that you
I
didn't want
didn't
him to sit
say,
behind.
don't sit there.
Right,
I mean, what reason would I have,
right.
right?
Yeah.
So,
That's a tough one, and everybody takes things as threats differently, right? So some people are comfortable with him being there, and it's
so
not a
other
problem,
people go and sit
No.
back there
and it's
and
no problem.
have no I mean, this student might have depression or he might, something else might be going on
Mhm.
because the student workers kind of felt like he didn't behave like other students who come in the door.
Gotcha. That's a tough one. Aside, like I said, I mean, to me, if it's not a huge situation, to remove,
The one person we did have who was a real problem,
yeah.
it turns out, wound up on the front page of the Hartford Courant,
Oh, really?
behaved pretty much completely normally,
Right. Yeah, you never know.
right?
You never know. Absolutely.
So,
I mean, I always, because of the nature of what I do, are used to confronting the issue directly by saying something to a young
okay,
man.
so y'all, especially the two of you,
Mhm.
right? Confront it directly.
And I think if you say to individual, it doesn't make me comfortable for you to sit back there at this time, would you mind? No.
Moving over there, yeah.
And that's possible. If you feel like if your concern is to offend the individual, then I guess you have to weigh what's most
Not so
important,
much
to you.
offend, but not overreact.
overreact to it. Yeah. It would be worse, obviously, for the police to have to say that, I would agree. So that if you could say that yourselves and you felt comfortable enough to say that, I think that'd probably be the better option.
I noticed today that the same individual that was here last week and has been here for the past like 2 weeks is still outside
Here
the
in
public
the
campus,
center?
outside in the student center, and it's the person that's
Talking.
like talking.
Yeah, I heard him on my way
This
in.
is a public space, this
Sure.
library. So if I notice someone that I know isn't a student
Mhm.
and it's just someone using the library, how do you go about like, I'm working here and they're using our resources, but they're not like, it's a question that I've had, cause
They
students
don't
are.
have to, no, this is a public, this is a state of Connecticut building.
Yeah.
The public has the right to use it.
Yeah, but like
Outside
something
of
like
him
the
breaking a
student center,
policy. Outside of him being in violation of a policy.
okay,
On campus, we're always gonna have, the campus
Mhm.
definitely will defend your right to freedom of speech.
of course,
So you're gonna have that. So if barring, restricting free passage,
Okay.
free liberty, saying anything that's threatening, the abolishment of the government or the assassination of a people, those type of things. Shy of that, for the most part, people are gonna get that leniency to have their freedom of expression.
Anybody with a Connecticut driver's license.
no, I
can
understand,
use
it's
the
just that
library.
they're blocking the entrance to the student center at times.
When
And just
that happens-
when waiting for students to enter
Yeah,
Oh,
and
that's
approaching
different.
in a way that,
That's what I was talking
in a
about.
way that prevents them from having access?
Yeah,
Or
like
at
if
least
a
it's the
student
best way they
enter-
know you have to talk to them. 'cause they're-
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, so it's
Then-
a group of people just waiting near the bookstore. As soon as you enter, they come to you in pairs.
Right.
And just shove literature in your face, but
Right.
it's like I'm trying to go from point A to point B.
Yeah. They're gonna get some leniency in that you still have, like, when I say blocking free passage, I mean literally not
In the
allowing
way.
you to get in the door.
Okay.
If they're not right at the door, but, several feet or whatever, and they're just passing out literature and you're allowed, you can walk around them or go through to get to the door,
Okay.
then, yeah, it's not gonna be a problem.
Okay. I just wanted to know like
Yeah.
where my rights
No,
are.
it's fair.
So
Yeah.
thank you.
Fair. But they should not be blocking the entrance, preventing you from leaving or getting in any excessive way. When I say someone, it's like when you go to a baseball, not baseball, but a game
Mhm.
or something, someone's soliciting something and they're handing stuff out. They're allowed to do that as long as they're not blocking your entrance into it.
Okay.
You obviously have the option of not taking it
Yeah.
and just walking.
Okay.
We have a lot of, in this particular, like, between the student center and here lately, I've bumped into a number of solicitors.
Yeah. I've seen that gentleman, I heard him on my way in.
And I've seen like
Haven't
I
seen
was
him pass
here
out stuff.
on a Thursday. Actually, it was a Friday at 2 p.m. I was just walking from the student center to the garage in Copernicus, and there were 8 of them, and they would split off into pairs, and they came up to me and my friend and split us up and tried to talk to us individually, and I was like, I have to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And whenever I was like, well, I'm gonna leave. Oh wait, but one more.
Yeah.
I'm like,
See,
okay.
they're
if
preying
you-
on you being
Exactly.
nice
So I
and
said,
respectful.
if you have any questions about like resources on campus to teach a Bible study, you can always go to the student center. You can always go to Davidson. You could always,
Right.
and I'm just directing them like we have chat, we
Right,
have
right.
prayer rooms.
Right.
So like
They're,
Yeah, we got
they're,
everything covered
they
here.
were in particular Christian, they were
Yeah.
Christian
Oh,
missionaries.
certain
Yeah.
faith, yeah.
yeah, so I was like
I don't know which faith, I didn't stop.
same. I was like I don't know which faith. I just know
Right.
that they're shoving literature and like getting me to read a presentation on an iPad. And I was like, well, I have somewhere to go.
Yeah. Unfortunately, and you know that, and there are gonna be students that don't know and don't wanna be rude and are gonna get kind of caught up in that. They have the right to say those things. The student yourself just has to say, no, thank you, and keep it moving. So community engagement wise, we have, we attend the campus resource fairs. I was talking to you a little bit about Lieutenant Ferrarati, affectionately known as Terry. So if you see him around, he gives classes along with Lieutenant Homestead, and Sergeant Samuda at times will do safety classes. And I think we gave 4 of those last semester. We'll do some more this semester as well. Resident assistant training, we go sometimes to the RAs to talk to them about expectations, and we work kind of hand in hand a lot of times with the RAs when we respond to the residence hall. So it's important for us to have a good communication. The town and gown is something that I've had familiarity with now. I think 3 times we've had 3 town and gowns, I believe, or 2. So that's with New Britain Police Department, our police department. The president has showed up at the last one along with student affairs. We welcome town members who live close to the campus who have any issues that may affect what we do. So they're welcome to come, and usually it's about parking sometimes it's about off-campus housing.
And parties.
And yeah, usually I've been told that, but recently it hasn't been.
Really?
They haven't really
Okay.
been complaining about parties so much, so that's a good thing. Till the spring, we'll see. Weather gets better. But the one we had in December obviously wasn't bad, and even in the fall, they weren't really complaining about too many
Oh,
parties.
good.
We did
I
have
mean,
some,
it was a number of
and we
years ago,
responded,
but
it used to be really.
we had a visiting graduate student living like not on Francis Street, but the next street over,
Yeah.
and I was up on there one Saturday night at 10 o'clock dropping her off, and
Yeah.
I could not
Raging
believe
party.
the noise level.
Yeah. We did not get a lot of those this semester, or past
Hey,
semester,
John.
or this year. How's it going?
Hey.
But it does definitely happen. And, obviously we're prepared to respond when we do, but we get a chance to talk to the community and kind of give them statistics if they're asking or whatever else they need. I put in there coffee with a cop. This semester, we're trying to do cone with a cop. So we're gonna see, I think we were looking at May.
Ice cream?
early May.
You
Ice
bring the
cream.
ice cream?
Yeah.
Do you get it to like a little, like,
We'll
I have
figure it
my
out.
cups still.
Well, we're gonna have to probably do some Sunday, like, obviously give someone some to-go stuff, so we'll make sure that's part of it.
You can always come
And
back
come.
and.
Yeah, right.
bring the ice cream.
Just, I'll go back and get more ice cream.
Yeah, so people like me, I don't drink coffee, so I say, hey, let's try something different. It doesn't always have to be coffee with a cup. So we're gonna
Yukon
do some different
Subak.
things.
Yukon Subak just did the 1,000,000 pint challenge, like what they had
Okay.
all their from their dairy farm.
Oh,
They had
yeah,
ice
good ice
cream.
cream up there.
So
Yeah,
just
okay. Competitive, okay, all right.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're working on a date there, we just have to hook that up, but that's gonna be coming soon. I do HOCC community partnership meetings quarterly, so I go down and talk to the members of the Hartford, used to Hartford, the Hospital of Central Connecticut. And we do a lot of meetings when it comes to transports and things that, response times and things of that nature. I actually spoke with the Hunters, who was the ambulatory service that we used to transport, about talking about the night of your friend who was saved. So they were very appreciative of the services that we provided, and we're going to be meeting with them to talk about some kind of, meeting to talk about the procedure and how it went, kind of what we call debriefing, talk about how things went, how we can work and do things better. National Night Out is a law enforcement event downtown in New Britain that happens every year in generally August, usually, so we participate in that. So it gives us a chance to see the local community and get out and give them some of our swag, pass out some goodies. And then our active shooter awareness training, we kind of do in tandem with the CCSU safety classes. We'll have that available to people in the community and on campus routinely. And I believe, so I'd save this time for any questions.
Yeah. So I think I have an idea about how to reorganize over there. Yeah, we take the couch out of there, put one of these, maybe take both of those cabinets, put them over there, put the couch over there.
Yeah.
And then when we have programs and we need extra space, we got more chairs.
There you go.
There you go.
And it's not at the reception desk. Where
And it's not at the
it can
reception
be
desk.
crowding anywhere. I can
Those
imagine
might
that.
not fit over there anyway, but yeah, let's
You
put it
a
over
couple,
there.
Because it separates, right? They have separate sections?
No, I think it's all one thing.
One piece.
Yeah, no, I'm not concerned about that fitting over there. I'm concerned about those fitting over there.
Oh, gotcha.
But we'll figure something out.
Yeah. Sure, Steve Van Voros, I hope.
Yeah, no, Steve Van
Steve's
Voorhees,
great, huh?
who can figure out where
Everything.
everything. Yeah, he'll drop by one day.
Yeah, tell
Just
him what
so
you want to do.
quality. He'll, no, because I already talked to him, and
Yeah.
you never know when he's coming, but he'll come walking in the door, and he'll be like, so, when do you want to do that? Okay?
I asked for a chair for one of my dispatchers, and it was delivered. I said, hey, could you just take a look? We're looking for one without arms on it. This is the brand that we use, but it doesn't have to be this brand, and it was delivered the next day.
Yeah.
A
So-
couch too. Yeah, all
So
things.
if you're looking around here,
Yes.
okay, in the event that we did have an active shooter,
Mm,
hopefully, I mean, not inside the center, because then we just duck under the
Right,
table, and
right.
right? But say like outside or somewhere else on campus.
mhm.
My sense is that we just kind
Their
of, to the
offices,
extent
yeah.
possible, get into the director's office and
Mhm.
pile stuff around.
Yeah.
That's the best space.
Mhm.
What do
Yeah,
you,
any closed
what do you
door
think?
with limited, any limited exposure to the outside and the inside. So I know that for the most part, aesthetically, the campus wants to present with windows, so the sun
We
can
got
get in,
none.
visible.
We got one
Yeah.
that's like
Right.
this.
I'm looking at that one.
Yeah,
I don't know what else is, that's the only window in there,
that's the only window.
in that office. So, yeah, so you have limited space there, right? If you had something that you could put up against it, obviously you put something up against it to block even more.
Yeah.
But
we're
I
on
think
the
that
fourth
gives you a
floor.
good, right,
I'm more thinking about that the threat would come from out this way rather than outside the building.
yes,
Because we're on the
for the
fourth
most part.
floor.
For the most part. But you also, if you had someone in the quad who did see you near a window or by a window,
Oh, okay.
you have to think about that too.
In which case,
But you
that
just get
might
down
be
low,
better.
you're fine. Yeah, just
Right.
stay low and you're good.
Except that these two, these room dividers are basically useless.
But they help envision visually
Right.
because an active shooter is working on time and trying to find as many victims as he or she can right away. So anything you can do to disguise yourself, mask yourself, conceal yourself, as opposed to cover. So in law enforcement, we talk about concealment and cover.
Right.
Concealing is I could be behind a piece of paper, but if you can't see beyond that paper, you don't see me. So you don't see a victim. If I created a wall that was full of construction paper and put it up against the glass, you can shoot through the glass, you can shoot through the paper, but you don't see me. So you're not going to indiscriminately shoot through something you don't know what it's hitting, because that's not your target.
Theory. Okay.
In theory, if
Right.
you don't know there's anyone in there. If you are, or if you're thinking to do that, unfortunately, it does two things. It helps us, right? Because we're responding to the sound of gunfire. So we hear that. It gives us a better idea of where the individual is, right? And at the same time, if he can't see you, you know where to be, should not be where you think he can see or where he's looking. So you have a better shot. This is a situation that you can't win. There's no winning in this, right? Other than coming home alive. But you're in a bad spot. You're making the best of it. So at the very least, you want concealment. And then cover is the brick wall is your cover, right? It's not going to go through the wall. If I were on the other side of that wall, I'm probably going to be safe. But cover is very difficult. Cover, if this table here was fortified with enough to stop a certain round or a knife, it's cover for a knife, not for a bullet. Cover is the best, but concealment is your start. So you
Okay.
want to be behind a place where you can't be seen.
Okay.
Ultimately.
And so we were talking I think the last time we talked to you
Mhm.
at the library event about getting blinds for
Yeah. I remember that.
yeah.
Right.
What do you think?
And so I mean,
Worthwhile? No.
that's beyond me, unfortunately. I
It's
don't have
above
the
your
purse
pay grade.
or the wallet
Yeah.
above
neither
my
do
pay
we.
grade, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yes, certainly it would be the most beneficial for what I call, again, cover. Concealment. Won't give you ultimate cover, but again, you're not, for the most part, a person who's doing that is not looking to shoot at things they don't know where victims are or people are.
Okay. Let me ask you one last question. I don't know if this is, so what is I'm assuming that the university policy about undocumented students is the same that it used to be, which is that if for whatever reason you come across an undocumented student, you don't report them to
I will tell you that is the
what
law
used to
enforcement.
be
Right.
the
That is our
IRS,
standard.
or not IRS.
INS,
INS, yeah.
Right.
You don't report them to
Now, Homeland
immigration.
Security.
Right.
We don't either.
Right.
That's correct.
Okay, all right, just,
Yeah, so there's no fear of retaliation, retribution, or any of those things to anyone can report any crime, be any witness, and not feel as though they're gonna, that anyone's gonna question their immigration status. And that's part of law enforcement's understanding as well. We have laws that protect them from us asking those questions.
okay, good. I mean, I knew that, I just
Yeah, I
wanted
know.
to, I wanted to make sure you did.
I know.
I mean, I assumed you did,
Yeah.
but we hadn't covered it,
Yep.
so,
Yeah, we specifically do in
And
law
that's one of the
enforcement. Even if
question-
it was a campus, even if the campus didn't cover it.
But that's one of the
Our
kinds of-
law enforcement, through law enforcement, through Homeland Security, and through Connecticut state statute, we're not.
that's one of the kinds of questions that we get here,
Yeah, okay.
right?
Good that that's recorded and let everybody know that.
Yeah.
That's the case for
They
us.
won't call the cops on you, you call,
And even if you do, we don't
I mean,
check.
they won't call immigration.
Right. We don't do it either. Now, if you have a warrant or there's some enforcement that needs to happen because of because of immigration, Homeland Security, and that's the reason we're doing it. There's steps that we have to take to make sure, obviously, if you have a warrant or you're
So you have to,
questioning,
right,
and we do that, it may come across to us, but that's the reason we're coming to you. It's not a secondary because you're making a complaint and we're checking or running you through the
so
system.
if immigration reaches out to you with a warrant.
If there's a
says-
detainer, yeah, right. If there's something actionable from Homeland Security, then we will go looking if we're asked to go look, but we won't go looking.
Leticia, Cynthia, just sign the poster, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, so
Does that make
thanks for
sense?
coming, yes, it makes
Yeah.
total
Thank you
sense,
so much.
yeah.
Thank you so much. for
My pleasure.
Thanks for coming,
Thank you for the invite.
wasn't mine,
Okay. Thank
Was
you for the
theirs.
invite, everybody.
was theirs.
And if there's ever anything else, any questions at all, you probably already do, but I'll leave my card. I've got a limited amount, so please share. But please contact us.